Welcome to another episode of Fans in Motion. As it has been said throughout the universe, the podcast that you didn't know you needed. I got a couple of regulars. I got Rock and Robyn straight from the bullpen. He might as well be a host. He's been on here enough. The keyboardist and leader of the band Night Ranger, Eric
Get me in trouble already.
Levy. And the is conductor the proper term? Lead conductor.
Yeah, I'm the music director and conductor.
And party engineer, right? A lot of partying going on. Mr. Kris Morron, thank you for joining us. So we basically got an episode here where we're talking about this record, Night Ranger. 40 years and a night with a contemporary youth orchestra. Eric Levy representing Night Ranger and Kris representing the contemporary youth orchestra. Well, anyways, both of you, thank you for joining us. Look at that shirt that Kris has got on. Look at that.
I mean, hey, I think we're wearing the same one. You got the sleeve.
Well,
oh yeah, nice.
Yeah, I saw Kris in it, and I was like, you know what, I need to get mine, and there we go. Eric, where's yours?
I'm actually like, today is like the sign of like, this is what happens when you're a Chicago Bears fan and somehow they win the turnover battle by 3 and have 40 minutes of time of possession to 20 and still manage to lose. So I'm actually representing here's Chicago on my hat, but then I'm wearing this T-shirt that the Detroit Fire Department was kind enough to gift me at some point. So representing those dudes, they rock. I'm happy for them. They got to see their team win.
Well, I guess we will accept that. And Angela got bragging rights on you again. So
she beat me at fantasy football again this week too.
Yeah, well,
she's beaten me twice now this season.
That's a double whammy. Yeah, so in the Night Ranger community, there's a lot going on with the release of this record. I gotta say, 4 decades in, and we get a unique record, but a great record. Night Ranger, 40 years in a night with a contemporary youth orchestra, released I think October 17th. So the release, it's been out for a couple weeks. Released on vinyl, released on CD, Blu-ray, and we're going to basically map this journey of how the idea came about, what all was needed to get Night Ranger with an orchestra. We'll talk about the teamwork between Eric, kind of acting on behalf of the band, and Kris acting on behalf of the orchestra. A little history with this. This show was, I think, November 9th, 2022. If not the 9th, the 8th. But so the first part of November of 22, in Cleveland, Ohio. It was part of the second annual Danny Repepe Memorial Show. For those that don't know, Danny Repepe was the brother of Ed Repepe, and Ed is the tour manager of Night Ranger. Danny was unfortunately killed in an auto accident. In 2021, they had a memorial show for him in Cleveland, and the money raised from that, they were able to buy some police canine units and dogs for the local police units and everything. The one in 2022, the second one was this show, the 40th anniversary show with the contemporary youth orchestra, and unique show with the orchestra. Kris, let's start with like your history and how you got involved with the contemporary youth orchestra.
Yeah, well, let me start by saying thank you so much for having me on the show. It's I've watched a number of episodes. I watched the episode where Ed announced this concert, and it was really fun to see everybody's enthusiasm for this project without having heard anything. And I'm glad that people are enjoying the album and enjoying the Blu-ray. I really thought that Night Ranger's team and the production team did such an amazing job. It is no small feat to try to capture a live performance and to capture it well, both from a video standpoint and from an audio standpoint. And just being involved, I mean, I was there like all day for 2 days with the setup and making sure everything was good for the orchestra, and everybody was awesome. Everybody on the tour team is awesome. I mean, Eric, you guys have just a great team of people helping out and making things happen day in and day out. You guys are touring all the time. It's amazing. And I just thoroughly enjoyed working with the Night Ranger team. So thank you for giving me an opportunity to talk about it tonight. It's really great to be here. Me personally, I am from Cleveland. I started making music when I was a kid, and after I did some things at Tri-C, Cuyahoga Community College, which is where CYO is now in residence. When I was in high school, I was a part of the jazz program there. I went on to go to Bowling Green, got a degree in music education and jazz performance, and then moved back to Cleveland and just started playing with bands, and was in bands like Aphrodisiatics and Mafune. And then I started teaching in a suburb of Cleveland and did that for quite a long time, and continued to gig and continued to play with bands like Revolution Brass Band and Trepanning Trio, just a wide variety of music and different artists. I wrote music for a lot of people in town, would do like horn arrangements. I'm a trombone player primarily, so would do arrangements for other groups. Great reggae musician, Carlos Jones in the Plus Band. I wrote horn arrangements for one of his albums and played on that album. And for me, it's just, I like a wide variety of music, and I pride myself on being a good collaborator. I want to, if I'm hired to sit in with a band or to write for a band, I just really want to understand the story that those musicians are trying to tell. And I just want to fit into that. I want that to work, and I want to amplify that any way that I can. And I unfortunately, I've just received a lot of opportunities to do that, so which has been great. So in 2021, I had been teaching for a long time. I think 17 years at that point, and I was just looking for a change. I was kind of feeling like the teaching gig wasn't going in the direction I wanted to. I had just published my first comic book, and I was like, I had never done anything like that before, and I thought, well, if I could accomplish this and convince people to purchase it, maybe there's other things that I could do. So I left my teaching job with no prospects. I had enough money in the bank to get me to December, and 3 months later, I got hired by the Contemporary Youth Orchestra to be their new music director. And it's been a wonderful fit for me because I use my performance background and my arranging and composing background, and my background as both an educator and as a performer. These are all aspects of what we do in CYO. I mean, we're trying to get kids to be exposed to the music industry, many different jobs within the music industry. And I think I bring a unique perspective in that you name it, I've pretty much done it at this point. So no student has come to me and been like, but have you ever done this before? Yes, I have. So it's been a good fit for me, a great creative outlet, and the students are incredible. I mean, they are just really talented. They're super fun to work with, and we've had a ball. So when the Night Ranger gig came around, it was exciting because it was an opportunity to put all of those skills to test with a group of musicians I'd never worked with before, and that was a unique challenge.
For those that don't know, give us just a little history of what the CYO is, and what they've done, for those that haven't listened to any of our previous episodes.
Yeah, the Contemporary Youth Orchestra, we are in our 29th season. They're based in Cleveland and have been the whole time. and it's a group of musicians made up of students from all over the greater Cleveland area. We've kind of drawn a 45-minute radius around Cleveland and really focused on, recruiting students from that that area. And our focus, like I said, is to get students to experience different aspects of the music industry. And our primary vehicle for that is contemporary music. We define contemporary music as music written within the last 100 years, but we have a special emphasis on music written by living composers. We're playing a lot of music by living composers. And then I think CYO is probably best known for our Rock the Orchestra concerts. They have performed with the likes of Styx and Tommy Shaw and Kenny Loggins and Melissa Etheridge and Bootsy Collins and Ben Folds and Jason Mraz. I mean, they've got quite a long list of collaborations. And of course, now we've got Night Ranger on that list as well. So
Eric
it's an amazing organization.
Night Ranger is it's sometimes referred to. But I think the first time I became aware of the Contemporary Youth Orchestra would have been like 2005, 2006 when they did the concert with Styx at Blossom Music Festival or Blossom Outdoor Amphitheater. And they released a record and a DVD with the orchestra. So that was the first time that I had heard them. And obviously I saw the Tommy Shaw one that was out I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago. It's been a little bit, but so Eric, when did you first start hearing rumblings that Night Ranger was looking at doing an orchestra show? Do you remember when you first heard?
Oh, I want to say like for years and years, it was something that would come up once in a blue moon. Like, somebody would be like, wouldn't it be cool if someday Night Ranger were to play with an orchestra? And but I guess it must have been sometime last year that I found out, wow, we're actually going to do this 2 years. I don't know. I can't tell you exactly when it was.
It would have been probably early. Well, the concert was 22, so probably early, 2022, somewhere around there.
Yeah. And man, it's this dude here, Kris. Like, I can't say enough great things about, and it just blows my mind that it's like I came from studying jazz performance in college myself. So I feel like I felt instantly like, oh man, like this guy, and I probably share all this other music vocabulary besides all of what we're supposed to be doing here. And then just, I feel like what Kris was being asked to do was in so many ways threading the needle, because it was like, okay, we want the orchestra to be able to play like these tight runs with the guitar players, but we also want them doing some like different things. We don't know what, but something creative, and so Kris is balancing all this with having his students and writing for them, and in the end, oh man, it's like the Kris, the creativity raw, it just unbelievable. Man, yeah.
I'm surprised you guys never met on the Garage Mahal circuit. In your guys' jazz bands. Now, at any time when you guys were first getting together, did you guys like have like that evil plan of how do we introduce some Keith Jarrett
it's funny to say that, Josh. I did do a little grunting in the demos I sent to the band. So, I mean, we worked it in there somehow. It was great.
Props to any fans and motion listeners who understood what just happened in that conversation.
But I try to understand jazz. I don't. I remember there's a Coltrane record I'm listening to, and I message Eric, hey, what's the significance of this record? He goes, well, this is like before it got really complicated. It was easy for the masses. I'm like, the record I'm listening to is complicated. It gets more complicated. But anyways, I know how much you jazz guys like Keith Jarrett. So I figured you
Of all
guys,
the people
he's
you
my
could
number
name,
one.
that's
um,
that's an interesting one.
but so Eric, Kris, you guys, so they get this organized to where this is going to happen, and they get you two in touch. What goes on from there? What are you guys talking about? What are you guys planning? Eric, what are you saying we need? Kris, what are you saying that you need from Night Ranger? Kris, do they tell you not to make eye contact with Jack Blades? What's going on?
It was
I think it. Oh, sorry.
no, it's all right.
And initially, at least for me, it was it I was more taking a step back, and it was really the guys who originally did these songs back in the day, who were really communicating back and forth with Kris at first about the creative ideas and such. And but then once we got to the point where it was we were ready to start actually doing it. I've been able to have the opportunity to play symphony shows before, so I was like, okay, I am probably in the position of all these guys to best be that liaison kind of person. But I tried to do it as transparently as I could, but I don't know how that happened. But yeah, I ended up going in a day early and got to look at the charts and got to meet the orchestra. And man, my impression was like, these kids get it, they're incredible. And the energy, man, the energy those kids brought was just insane.
Well, speaking of the charts, like that's so, Kris, when you're this is first starting to kick off, I'm going to guess you're familiar with a few Night Ranger songs, but not their entire catalog and what they're playing. I'm going to assume you kind of start digging into that. But after, you listen, to the songs, Eric just mentioned writing the charts. What's like a checklist of what you need to do before this show happens?
Well, I think it's important to note that I don't think I was the first pick to do these arrangements. I think in conversations with Ed, we were kind of going back and forth, like who should do these arrangements, and we had worked with some other arrangers, and I know that at least someone within Night Ranger had wanted to take a stab at doing the orchestra arrangements, or they had somebody in mind that they wanted to do it, and so I said, well, allow me to do one song and send it to the band, and then if I'm not the right fit, then that's fine, and we'll find somebody, and it'll be great, and I won't be offended. And so I went right for the throat, man. I did Sister Christian first, and I sent that off to the band, and they came back and they're like, wow, this sounds really good. Eric, were you there when the band got Sister Christian, or what was the reaction?
No, it's I'm always one of the last people to know anything, though. Just kind of given my place in things. Yeah, it's I don't think I was aware of. Did I? I'm trying to remember if I heard that. I might not have even heard that Sister Christian initially. Yeah, that was really probably more of a management with the original guys. Yeah.
Kris, let me ask you this real quick. If you had not done the arrangements, would you still have conducted the show?
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely my role with the orchestra.
All right, I just wanted to make sure how that all works out for greenbacks like me when it comes to orchestra stuff. Okay, so now speaking of that, I mean, the one thing I did like, I don't know if it changed since then, or you'll tell me that they used some other arranger later on, but what I really like, I always highlight about Sister Christian, you saying that that's the song you kind of, went with the jugular, was I always liked how it starts out, the regular piano, dun, 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 and underneath the orchestra's playing the chorus. And I thought that's kind of neat where they just don't follow the, the traditional piano line. So good job there, buddy. You won me.
Thank you. Thank you.
Brilliant. Having the melody being played by those strings up, top, brilliant.
So so you take your shot with Sister Christian, and what do you hear back from them?
So Brad in particular had a lot of ideas about what he wanted the intro to Sister Christian to be, and he had this vision of referencing different parts of the song as like a grand entrance into the song. And I took what he said there about referencing different parts, and as you mentioned, I kind of wove that into like different sections of the orchestra actually playing different parts of the song on top of each other. And then that coincided with what Eric plays on keyboard. And I think I did a couple other things later in the song too, da 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 with the strings, and those were parts that I really was proud of. So when the band came back and they were like, yeah, you get it, this sounds great, can you adjust this thing? I made the adjustment, send it back. They're like, okay, cool, let's go on and do the next song. It felt great. I mean, more additional backstory when we were talking to Ed about this project and we agreed that we were going to do it, and then I was going to take a stab at arranging the songs. So I don't even know if Eric knows this, but I went and for that whole summer of 2022, when I was working on arranging, I made a playlist on my Apple Music account where I took the top 100 songs of each year of the 1980s and made a playlist out of that. So I'm listening to, like 1,000 songs, and I just fully immerse myself in the sound of the 80s. Because what I wanted to understand and go into this project was, what headspace was Night Ranger in at this time? Who else was writing music? Who are they touring with? Who are they, getting inspiration from? I wanted to have that vocabulary before going into the arrangements, because I didn't want the arrangements to sound so wildly different than Night Ranger's catalog. I didn't want it to sound out of character with their songs. And that homework really paid off, because when it came to arranging the songs, I felt like I had a better grasp of what the band was doing. I was listening to all of their back catalog and just trying to understand, like, what is the story they're trying to tell. And yes, I knew some of their songs going into this project, but that summer of really doing my homework was awesome, and it gave me a greater appreciation for Night Ranger as composers, songwriters, and as performers. There's a lot going on in those songs, and you all know this because you have a podcast about it and you talk about it all the time, but I wanted more people to know just how great these songs are. And so it just became a lot more fun to write the arrangements.
Well, and I, talking about how you were going year by year in the 80s, you can say that, the height of MTV was 83 to 86. And who rolled MTV during that period? Night Ranger.
Right.
Sister Christian rolled 1984. You had When You Close Your Eyes getting a lot of, airplay. And then, a lot of people forget Seven Wishes had 2 top 10 hits and a top 20 hit. So all of 85 going into the first half of 86, Night Ranger rolled.
Well, if I'm remembering correctly, the song Night Ranger in that video was one of the first videos on MTV to get regular rotation.
That would have been, well, Don't Tell Me You Love Me. Yes.
That's it. Yep.
Yeah.
Don't Tell Me You Love
Me
right.
was, one of the, someone out there probably knows exactly, but I think it was played,
it was like December of like 82. I looked it up because my mom got into them and Def Leppard at the same month.
And I think MTV came out, August of that year. And if you were really wanting to, get into Night Ranger's headspace, really all you had to do is become heavily medicated, hang around some shady characters and some questionable women, and you could have got there probably a lot quicker. But that's the 80s for you. So, I like the idea though of, getting, your mindset out of the decade you're in and going back, 40 years in some cases. So was there any, so when you're, arranging these songs, was there any song that, gave you particular trouble? Like, I don't know, maybe like, what the hell do I add to this? I don't know what, what an example would be, but was there anything that, kind of was just hard to, score or come up with ideas for?
It's a really good question. I'll say that when I started the arranging process, I had requested audio from their live shows. I wanted to hear what they were doing, on their regular tours. And that was incredibly valuable, especially Eric's playing. In fact, I got a soundboard mix, and it was pretty much Eric and the band in the background. And it was great because Eric is laying out a lot of chords and melody lines and things like that. And a lot of the arrangements was, okay, how can I blend the orchestra with what Eric is doing? If you got two groups within the band doing like heavy chordal stuff, it's going to sound like a mess. So a lot of the arrangement was like, okay, I got to make sure that what we're doing lines up with what Eric is doing. And then when Eric isn't doing something, is there something that I could do to, add something interesting without being overbearing in the arrangement? And so that was really helpful. I can't say that there was one song that was more difficult than the others, but I will tell you that Call My Name and When You Close Your Eyes were my two favorite songs to arrange. I had the most fun, and I felt like the ideas I came up with for those two songs were the ones I was most excited to conduct. Like when I gave them to the students, I was like, you guys better like these songs because I like them.
Now, we're going to get to When You Close Your Eyes here in a second, because there was something I really liked. It was, not big, but that you added that song. But now the soundboard recording you got, was that the one where Eric plays 4 a.m. twice?
Oh, no, that was way.
Huh?
No, it wasn't that.
No, I'm pretty sure it was a recording where Eric had to do all the vocals that night. Jack wasn't feeling well, and I think Eric sang every song.
Listen, really we've got some Eric on vocals video, but what I'm busting Eric with is there was, I don't know, I guess I had to be there because I'm giving you enough crap, but what show was it where I think you started 4 a.m. twice?
I started singing. We had the show before we had played. Or no, the last time that we had played 7 Wishes, we had played it
second or third
after we had played it second. So we played it after Rockin' America and before 4 a.m. And I had remembered that Kelly during rehearsal was like, yeah, let's make sure that 4 a.m. is still right before Sing Me Away so that we can do that ba 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 and then swell into it. And so anyway, then we're playing this show and Jack called it audible. And suddenly we're playing Sing Me Away, but we were playing it after 4 a.m. So not to excuse it, but that's where my brain fart came from. So meanwhile, we had already played Sing Me Away second, I can't remember how the order got.
Anyways, I just remember like the next show we did a set list.
They're still not letting me live it.
The next show we did a set list, and it's like it's You Can Still Rock in America, 4 a.m. Sing Me Away, 4 a.m. Night Rangers, 4 a.m. Every other song is
it was Sing Me Away, right? Yeah, that was an Eddie special.
So
putting that up, putting it on the board. He's like, this is the set list, guys.
But back to
I deserve it though.
Back to you talking about what you some of your arrangements you liked. I'm pretty sure it's you can still rock in America, where normally, right, I think it's going right into that pre-chorus of where Kelly starts to sing. Normally they would just hit an open chord and let it ring out, and they still do that on the orchestra version, but you guys fill in that 2-second space with some 2 or 3 really cool notes, right? And I was like, wow, that's cool. I've listened to this song for 40 years. That's always just been a note that, you hit, some open chords on guitar, let it ring out, and then jump into that pre-chorus. And you guys just took that little 2-second slot and made it happen. And so, being the Night Ranger nerd, that's the stuff I pick up on. But yeah,
that was Kris 100% that moment.
And that, Josh, that makes me feel really good because honestly, as I was going through the arrangement process, I was like, this is a band with a very dedicated fan base that has heard them play a lot. These songs have been around for a very long time. The last thing I want to do is get in the way or try to change these songs whatsoever. So it was like, I was very careful about the little things I added. And, you know, there were a couple things the band came back and they're like, Kris, that's cute, but and that's fine, you know. Hey, you don't. It's easier to cut stuff than to add stuff, so that was fine. But
now we're going to get to call my name because that deserves a whole segment in itself. So you know, you're passing, you know, ideas back and forth to the band and everything. So the show is on a Wednesday, Thursday?
I think it was a Wednesday.
Okay, so Eric, you guys arrived, Eric, like Friday or Saturday, correct?
Yeah, what day was our rehearsal? I want to say
Saturday.
Thursday, actually, for a Friday rehearsal, if I'm remembering correctly.
So
we had rehearsal Saturday. We had Sunday off. We did.
That's what
no.
Saturday,
you came
right?
Saturday. The rest of the band came on Monday. We did Monday at our usual rehearsal spot. Tuesday was on stage. Wednesday was the show.
And speaking of When You Close Your Eyes being one of your other favorites, the moment for me when I realized that like they weren't the orchestra wasn't just a bunch of kids, but you know, was, and not to mean that in a derogatory sense, but Kris wrote during the second the re-intro, it goes it's like the band plays these swell chords and he has the strings like fading in doing, I don't even know what you call that articulation. It sounds like magical. And I remember like at that moment looking up and being like, whoa, like, okay, this is next level.
That's funny you should mention that part because I came up with that in the shower and I like was running out of the shower to sing it into my phone so I wouldn't forget it. And then I realized later on that it was that research that I did in the summer. So, I can't remember what song it was, but somebody else had done that in a song and it had like made its way into my brain and then came back out in that arrangement. But
there you
I love
go.
that part too.
You know, listen to all those, you know, 100 songs, you know, Kaja Gugu or something was caught up there in the brain and filtered itself out. So, you know, Eric shows up a little bit early. He's at the rehearsals on Saturday. The band shows up on Monday at your guys's, you know, basically your guys's whatever, you know, location. So let's talk about that day, the first day, Monday, that first day that the band's there. Just let's talk about, you know, how, you know, if there was any, you know, unexpected obstacles. Did everything run smoother than usual? Was Levy sober?
I didn't drink around kids. No.
So when I did the arrangements, I took live recordings of the band and I used digital audio workstation to like play and superimpose my arrangements on top of their live performances. And then I would send 2 versions of those to the band. One was a version of the arrangement with the band playing their live show, and another would be just the orchestral arrangement. So they could hear the arrangement itself, but then they could also hear how the arrangement worked with their performance. And when everything was said and done, once they approved those, I could then share that with the students and say, okay, like this is what it's going to sound like to play along with Night Ranger, and go home and practice playing along with the recordings. And we even at rehearsals leading up to Night Ranger coming would listen to the recording, listen to the demo that I made, and then we would play it and try to match, because what we wanted was the band to come in and just do their thing, and we would not have to change much. I mean, we knew we had 2 rehearsals, so we knew that it had to just mesh together really quick, and we couldn't do anything fancy. We didn't have a lot of time to work through any like special trickery. Like it just had to be, they arrive, they do their thing, and we work with them. So I think the students did a really good job of being prepared for that. I mean, for them never working with a professional group. I mean, many of them have not worked with a professional group before. I thought they did a really good job of plugging in and playing with the band. And so I think Eric could speak to it better than I could, but I think that there was probably a little bit of like nobody really knew if this was going to work out or not on Monday night. It's kind of like, okay, well, here we go. We'll see if this works. And after a couple songs, it felt like everybody was smiling and settling in, and we were starting to have fun.
Yeah,
Eric,
definitely. And like when I came in for that Saturday rehearsal, I was impressed, right, first off and foremost by the demeanor of everybody in the group of just, acting pro. It's like, it's like being working with like an 11-year-old who's acting like a total pro is, not something I'm not something I'm used to. Yeah, it was amazing. So what I tried to impart on the kids that day was like, hey, once the other guys in the band come in, just remember that everybody really first and foremost wants this to be a fun occasion. And it's like, yeah, let loose with it. The show is going to be fun. It's really going to be a good time. And yeah, sure enough, when the guys in the band came in, they were man, like Kris said, it was like it didn't feel like the band had to change one iota of what the band did, feel wise, hits wise. Sure we changed some things arrangement wise, just so it's like we figured things out that would be good for that performance. But as far as the orchestra making us feel like we were encumbered anyway, man, phenomenal. Man, phenomenal respect for everybody in that orchestra. It's I'm remembering there was a moment during the song Night Ranger where we had a technical issue and we had to pause. We're waiting for things to get ready and resolved, and I'm looking around at the orchestra, and I remembered that when I was in high school, my band instrument in symphonic band was the timpani. So I walked over and I found the timpani player. And I was just like, yeah, dude, you're doing what I was doing when I was your age, and, gave him a fist bump. And man, what an incredible experience working with them, truly.
Now, before you did that first rehearsal, Kris, did you, let them watch the scene from Boogie Nights where Sister Christian is in there to kind of get them, acclimated to what could possibly happen? So Tuesday, Tuesday.
Hold on, time out. Hold on. We did do a special Night Ranger rehearsal where we made like a slide presentation and we gave like all the facts about Night Ranger, like 17 million records and who was president when they first came out. We showed them the videos. They had a blast watching the videos. I mean, it became like a lot of inside jokes within the orchestra. Like, why are they having such a sad party on a train? And then all of a sudden there's balloons everywhere. And then why are they gazing out the windows?
Why is there a monkey? And when you close your eyes? Now, I thought you were going to go with we just had someone lighting firecrackers.
Well, I was going to say. And during rehearsals, I just had some, I was just throwing fire poppers, just to scare them, keep it on their toes. But so we did prep them a little bit and try to help them understand, none of them were alive when Night Ranger was, making headlines in the 80s. So we felt it was really important for them to understand some of the context of the band and why they were so famous and so influential. And I think they enjoyed that rehearsal a lot. It was a lot of fun.
Kris, how was it? It's obviously one thing to rehearse on your own and then with the band, in the confines of your own place. But then you get to the theater and you have that rock stage set up and you got all those thousands of seats out there, right? And you got Eric coming in. Well, maybe not that day, but Eric coming in as Night Ranger garb where he looks like a completely different person. And What was that like for yourself and for the orchestra? Finally, it's the day before, but you're in that rock and roll, that theater, that setting. How was that? What was that feeling like?
We wanted to help the students have an experience, and we wanted them to be excited about the experience. So well before our season started, going back into August, we had actually arranged a tour with Playhouse Square so the students could get a tour of the theaters. And so we got a little history lesson about Playhouse Square, and the kids got to go on stage when nothing was on it and just be on the stage and see the auditorium. And, they're wide eyed. I mean, it's a gorgeous theater and obviously lots of seats in that theater. So they at least knew the space before we got there for rehearsal. But then you get on stage and, the stage is for the orchestra is elevated and there's air cannons and light shows and, all the stuff going on, cameras. And I think there may have been a little bit of, adrenaline from the students, like, oh, wow, okay, this is like the real deal rock thing. They certainly loved poking fun at me when I was startled by the air cannons going off on either side of me while I was conducting. But I think in general, they were just excited. And we take a lot of pride in creating an environment where the students feel welcome and they feel comfortable and that there's a lot of connections between the students. And I think that work really paid off when we were in the theater in that situation, because the kids were laughing, they were looking at each other, they're having a good time. You watch the percussionists in that DVD and they are headbanging and rocking out and they're talking to each other and having a great time. Like, I think they were just excited. And so once we got to the theater and we were doing the whole thing, there was work to be done, but I think everybody was enjoying it too.
Eric, you remember anything in particular from the night before that rehearsal, the first night at the theater?
That's most of my recollection of rehearsals at the theater is actually the stuff that was going on, like 2 hours before the show, of like, wow, we're about to open doors and do all these microphones work. And how many live microphones do we have? How many live cameras did we have? We've done video shoots before, but we haven't done video shoots with, expanding our band by 100 people, or, which is essentially what we did. And so, yeah, that if there was any time where it was like, okay, it's now or never, like this, we got to make it happen now. So here we go. That's the moment I'm remembering.
Well, and then also afterwards, after everything was said and done, that's the night we drank some beer and ate some gourmet cheese.
Oh, that was the bringing the cheese to the bar night.
Yeah. So and that was a night, I was there and I was at the venue a little bit, and I kind of realized, you know what, I'm not going to be around here much. There was just a lot going on and a lot of people, and just you could sense that this was big. So now we're talking about Wednesday, the day of show. Kris, how do you prep for that? Now, these kids, I mean, they got, like regular school hours, right? Like they're going to school during the morning and afternoon, but that night they got a rock and roll show. So just talk a little bit about what their day and your day was like leading up to the actual event.
Yeah, I think all of them went to school that day and they got home and put their backpacks away, got dressed up in their CYO attire and came up to the theater, and we were off and rolling. And I'd like to think that we did a good job in preparing them and getting them ready for just trying to give them as much information and to try to prepare them for any possibility. And my earlier comment about Night Rangers tour team, they made a lot of that logistic stuff happen. And from great monitor mixes to making sure that the lighting was good for the students, that the microphones were set up well. It was a huge production, and those folks were there. They were nice. I mean, I hung out at the theater the whole day, and I had an opportunity to have lunch with everybody. And you could just tell the amount of time they've spent working together and on the road. And I kept asking questions like, you know, how did you all come together? And it was really interesting to hear how, like, oh, we worked with so-and-so, and they suggested I, you know, come over and work with Night Ranger. And this team has really been awesome. So I've enjoyed working with them. And I mean, there's a real family feel with Night Ranger. And so I think all of that culminates in making things not feel frantic or like question marks of, is this going to work, or what is this going to be like? It just all felt very professional and very well thought out. And um, the only thing I was nervous about is Jack wanted me to wear one of his vests on stage, and I just can't pull off that look.
Was it the 1985 turquoise vest?
It was not the turquoise vest.
Yeah. So, because that would have been cool. You would have got even more props from the Night Ranger community. Eric, do you remember anything leading into that day of show? I mean, were you were there any lingering questions, or were you pretty confident that this was going to be able to be pulled off?
I mean, I felt I felt like Kris was confident in the best possible way, you know, and that the orchestra was confident in the best possible way, and in a way that, yeah, you know, like you said before, it's like these kids are going to go sit in a class of 20 tomorrow and, you know, do math problems or whatever, you know, and here they are, like, in front of, you know, like thousands of people and all these video cameras and lights, and, you know, okay, you get one shot at this, it's going on the DVD. You know, not a single face I looked at looked rattled in any possible way. Oh, there was an amazing moment that happened right before the show started, where it was like Ed's coming to us like, you know, hey, you guys, I know we're trying to get ready, but you know, they really want us to come upstairs for a minute before this show starts, and, you know, come on, you guys, let's do it. And so it's, I have no idea, you know, it's, are we going to do another meet and greet or what, you know, I'm just like, okay, here we go upstairs now. And we walk into this room, and it was like the most amazing, like, applause coming out of the entire orchestra, just like the enthusiasm of that moment, like, just you know, having 100 kids just like cheering at you, it was like, wow, wow. And then they gave us all posters. I have mine hanging on the wall right there.
Nice.
There it is. Yeah. Yeah, the enthusiasm in that moment. Yeah, they presented us with these posters that all the kids had signed it. You know, I look up here and I'm like, you know, who's that Aussie kid? You know, yeah. And so it was like, even like, you know, going up, I think right before the show, I'm like going up to you know, give a note to Kris, and I didn't even send it to him in notation, because it was like I didn't have, like, you know, notation paper in front. I wrote like the stems of notes, and I wrote like the, you know, E, F sharp, you know, like underneath it. And I'm like trying, you know, passing this to him like 5 minutes before we're about to start. He was like so cool and collected and on it, and man, yeah.
So I think also, Kris, one thing you may not know. So the Fans of Motion, I mean, obviously, you know, the celebrated podcast that you're on. We're also, you know, a Facebook page, we're nearing 10,000 members. Okay. And we've got members all around the country, all around the world. But you know, a lot in the Midwest. And this show, as was the, you know, the first Danny Repepe Memorial Show, we had a lot of the members of the page going to this show. So the night before the performance, we we went to the Winking Lizard there in Independence, and I bet we had probably, you know, 45, 55 members of the page, all Night Ranger fans, you know, there drinking, partying, awesome, taking over the jukebox. So it was a big event for us. I mean, something that we, one, had all looked forward to just because of the event that was last year, but also now it's something unique, in the orchestra, and we know that it's going to be recorded, and it's going to be a piece of the Night Ranger history that's going to be there forever. So, from us, as a fan's point of view, it was a show that we were looking forward to for multiple reasons. I had been to that theater before, so I knew that how beautiful the theater was, and was telling everybody, like, listen, there's a lot of stuff lining up perfect for this show. Night Ranger, the orchestra, beautiful theater. I mean, the Browns still play in the city, but you can't win all of them. So with having that night out, the night before, and then all of us being there at the theater before the show and talking and meeting, and then the events leading up to it, right? And you go out to your seats, and you see this different stage that you've never seen with Night Ranger before, right? You got the regular setup, but then you have this stage on top of the stage, and this big monitor, this big screen that's going to have all kinds of graphics. You knew something was going to be different. So we're now at showtime. you know Now Eric's old hat at this, right? He's toured all over the world, and he knows the old Night Ranger whole setup. But this is your first time up on stage with Night Ranger, so just give us a little just your story of the show starting, and what you remember, and what you enjoyed.
Well, I remember the sound check that night, and I remember that was the one point where I felt like I really exerted myself on behalf of the students, because I was like, I think the band may have had a few things that they wanted to go through, and I was like, we really, just for the sake of students, we need to start every song. Like, they just need to know the transitions between songs, and you know how the flow is going to work. And so that was really important for me to have the students have that before we played a single note on stage. And the band was gracious enough to give the students that, and I think that really helped out a lot. I've not been playing for 40 years, but I haven't been a musician since I was 10 years old, and done a lot of playing and a lot of touring. And I think part of being a professional musician is understanding that there are some things that are within your control, and there are a lot of things that are outside of your control. And so I go into any performance with a healthy mindset of, be prepared as much as we possibly could for this moment. There's nothing that we can do to prepare any better. Now it's just time to ride it and try to have some fun. And I think we did. I think we had a great time, and we were on stage, and you hear the audience talking, and you see the students kind of settling in their seats, and the feeling in the room was really good. The moment that Eric mentioned was right before we went on stage, and so everybody's feeling good, and everybody's feeling connected and excited, and just felt really good. It felt like, hey, I think this is going to be a good night of music making. And so I'm standing there on stage with the students, and I'm trying to keep them loose. I'm probably making some stupid faces. I'm glad they didn't put that on the DVD. And when I heard the count off, it was like, all right, here we go. And we went right into it. And it was exciting and fun. And the band did a great job of kind of Jack was up on the podium with the orchestra. Carrie came up at one point. Eric tried to pick up his keyboard, but he only got like a couple steps. It just looked awkward. And but I think the connection was there. Everybody was present on stage and having a good time, and I just felt like there's nothing that could have gone better that night. I mean, it was just a great night of music, and we did the best we could, and I'm glad that people had a good time. It's really cool to hear about the Night Ranger fans getting together beforehand and sharing some friendly camaraderie before going to the concert.
One thing you may not know, you talk about kind of wanting to loosen up the before the show. The original writer had 80 additional shots of tequila on it until someone thought better of it and like, hey, the Y in the CYO is youth. So they still kept the 80 shots, but Levy took about 50% of them. So so the performance starts. Robyn, talk a little bit about what your experience there, what song stood out to you. Talk about your experience being there in the crowd, watching Mr. Levy and Kris there do their magic.
Well, I was like front and center, so I was maybe what 5 to 10 rows and like in the front, and I mean, it just sounded really amazing. Like I think part of that special area where I couldn't hear the orchestra as much as I would have wanted to, but like the points where it stood out was like Close My Eyes. And when I watched the DVD back, Sister Christian was probably my favorite song. That was like the arrangement was my favorite. That it's like, wow, it hit me out of nowhere kind of feeling. Like, I don't think a record's good if at least one song doesn't do it. To me, like, where did that come from? I need it. It was just so much fun too to see the kids having fun. One of the best parts in the DVD is some girls in the crowd was like, look at the drummers, how much fun they're having and stuff. And it like goes back and forth to like the kids, and then like they're like literally pointing, and that's how it felt too. Just the entire atmosphere, what you were saying, like it just felt like, okay, this is it's not just rock and roll. It's almost like it almost felt like it could have been like a little rock opera. It was fun.
Nice.
Yeah, I mean, I think, kind of what we talked about is everything lined up perfectly. It was an event we all wanted to be at. It was Night Ranger. It was something unique with the orchestra. It was a beautiful theater. So, a lot of things lined up perfectly. What I took out of it was where I was at down front. I mean, obviously it's going to be a little hard to hear, the orchestra. So I couldn't quite get that full the audio part, but visually, I mean, you can almost see it visually. You can see this, there's 80 other musicians on stage playing, and you see them basically, they're all the same movements, right? So maybe I can't hear them, but I know there's some cool shit happening, right? And just visually, how unique and cool it was. I did walk around the venue, so different places, like any theater where you go, oh, okay, if I'm up here in the middle, I can definitely hear the orchestra more. So, just, from being there, it was just cool seeing, 80 other musicians up there playing and contributing, to that music. The standout track was Call My Name, in my opinion. Now, as a Night Ranger fan, Call My Name has always been probably one of my favorite Night Ranger songs, probably the favorite. It's Brent's favorite. Brent's another host on the podcast. Probably one of the few things Brent and I agree on there. So it's one of, it's our favorite track from Night Ranger. And, and on top of that, Night Rangers had, 3 or 4 live records, and that song's never been on one of the live records. So we're getting a live version of Call My Name. And on top of that, I mean, it's like I said, it's a song we hold in high regard. When you guys played it, I forget who it was, but someone on the page said like that version on this record is like the definite version of it. Like it
what? That's awesome. That just gave me chills. That's so cool.
Now listen, I ain't saying that. But other people have said
I
that.
agree with that statement. Yeah.
But visually, right? visually with, Jack in the Fog, and you have the graphics behind him, and then the orchestra. You guys are. I mean, I don't think the band's playing anything. It's you guys playing everything. Visually, it's stunning. Musically, it's stunning, and yeah, it's just fucking phenomenal. I mean, if you're one of the kids listening to this, I'm sorry, but it is right. It's one of those things where it's worth the price of admission alone, right? So I guess I'm on, for myself and behalf of all the other Night Ranger fans, Kris, thank you for making Call My Name such a. I don't think I could ever think it could get better, and somehow you pulled it off. All right.
Well, shit, that's high praise. Thank you, man.
But yeah, that's what I remember from the show was just the visual aspects of how great it was seeing the orchestra and all the kids up there. Just you could tell they were in sync. None of them looked flustered or anything. Like they looked like they fucking belonged there more than Eric did, right? Eric's the one I see sometimes looking around like, all right, what's going on here?
4 in the morning.
So that's what I took out of it, was just how professional and how smooth everything appeared and ran. So
what I like too.
Go ahead. Go ahead,
no,
Rob.
you go ahead. I was just going to compliment more because what I always loved about Night Ranger, especially, is I feel like they, more than like Van Halen, even my favorite Def Leppard, like just are the 80s more than any other like rock band of the 80s. And part of why I love them is Fitz, the original keyboardist that came up with the original stuff. He would fill in and do all the random little melodies that like the guitars would miss, and it would be just so different and stuff. So that's why this was like honestly like match made in heaven.
It's really cool.
Kris,
Really cool.
there were 3 songs that the orchestra didn't play on.
Uh-huh.
One of them being "Rumors in the Air," if I remember correctly. Does that sound right? Is that right, Lisa? Or Lisa? Robyn?
Yeah.
Okay.
I love that song too. So yeah.
I mean, I don't know if you're familiar with the song, Kris, but to me, like that would have been a perfect orchestra song, right? Because Eric coming out of the chorus, how you got those keyboards, like to me, there's like a lot of stuff there. Is there any reason, like, if obviously that might not even been a song presented to you, Kris,
Right.
but if it was, is there, is there a reason why maybe that wouldn't have been done, or was it not even an option?
I'm not sure what the decision-making process was for the band, but they did send us a set list, multiple set lists. They had done some different iterations, and there were decisions made. We're not going to have orchestra on these songs, and I'm not sure if it was a logistical thing, if they just really wanted to play without the orchestra on those songs. I'm not 100% sure what the decision was, but
Eric,
yeah, go ahead.
Eric, do you think "Rumors" would have been a good song for the orchestra, or is there something that my non-musical ears aren't getting with that song?
Oh, I mean, imagining what Kris would have done with it, considering what he did with the other arrangements, I think it would have been fantastic. I have no idea really what the decision making was either. Yeah.
All right. Well, that was just, like I said, just something. I know it was played, that night, and if I don't bring it up, there's going to be someone's going to, say something. Probably myself kicking my ass at 2 a.m. Why didn't you ask that? Now, Kris, I do want you to go listen to a Night Ranger song called "Rain Comes Crashing Down," because that was a song that I pushed. A lot of Night Ranger fans wanted. We thought it was a perfect song for the orchestra. It's a deep track, but I'd love to hear your opinion on if that was ever going to be an option. I'm not going to, complain. I got Call My Name, and I'm happy with it. But Rain Comes Crashing Down was the one like all the hardcore fans were
Mm.
saying would have been a good opportunity for that to be showcased. But I get it. Record companies want hits and stuff like that. So
I will say about Call My Name, that one, like as I said earlier, was one of my favorite to do. And as I was working on that arrangement, I think my respect for Night Ranger grew, because as I was playing inside of that song, I was like, oh my God, there's just so many possibilities with this song. This song has a lot of depth to it. It's a lot of development. And I think I said to Jack at some point, I definitely said it to the students, but I was like, this is like Night Ranger's Stairway to Heaven. This is the epic multi-movement, lots of, little pockets of ideas. And I absolutely loved, it's what I said before is absolutely true. I loved playing inside of that song. It was so much fun to be like, oh, I could just add a little here. It's like being a chef in the kitchen, just like throwing salts in this corner, and it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun. It was a great song to play.
I think another song, Eric, that you guys could have had fun with when like Eddie's Coming Out Tonight. There's a lot of movements in that, and back and forth with the guitar solos and the keyboards, and so
Absolutely agreed. I think there's going to be room for like a part 2 concert.
Yeah, there we go.
I
was gonna say, can we?
I was just gonna say is referencing what Kris was talking about Stairway to Heaven, and I never thought about it that way, but I do think it's like of all the Night Ranger songs, it's like it's the one that has like the purest arc, I guess, where it's like it really, it starts out, the recording starts out just acoustic piano and nothing else, but it's like it's a slow and steady build, and it's all the way until you get to that end, and it's like it's the loudest it's been, the biggest it's been, and until it drops down for the very end. And I think now that I think about it, Stairway to Heaven has that similar arc, and also like you said has different kind of like ideas in different sections going on. Yeah, that's profound.
And it's lyrically, you can say whatever you want about Night Ranger, but I think lyrically, that's definitely one of the songs that definitely paints a picture, like that those opening verses, I hear a voice over the sound of the city, stuff like that. Very cool lyrics, very mellow starting out, and like I said, takes you for a ride, builds you up, and you definitely know when you hit that climax because you're usually driving a little bit too fast, and you hear them sirens at the end, and you're like, shit, you're looking in your mirror, yeah.
So basically, what I'm hearing here is that we need to start a crowdfunding campaign to raise money to do an album with Night Ranger and orchestra in the studio. Is that what I'm hearing correctly? We got a couple songs we missed.
Exactly.
Deep tracks.
Well, listen, I don't even know if we need a crowdfund. I'm about 8 months away from having enough blackmail where we could have the whole Man in Motion record being played, live on stage if need be. So, but how cool would that be? A live in the studio with the Contemporary Youth Orchestra, banging out Eddie's Coming Out Tonight, Rumors in the Air, Rain Comes Crashing Down, a Keith Jarrett cover, you guys could be introducing the weather report to millions of new listeners under the Night Ranger. Who's the other guy you like there, Eric, that we could introduce? Who's the one
report? That's Joe Zawinul.
I know.
Yeah, who's
the guy, the blue album cover, Feather on a Wing or something like that?
Chick Corea.
Yeah, Chick Corea. Yeah. So there you go.
Well, Herbie Hancock and Future Shock was really popular around the time of Night Ranger. Maybe we need to do like a Future Shock cover.
Oh man, it's
some Jan Hammer, whatever that guy's name was.
Do some Jan. Yeah, I can go for that.
We'll just do a jazz covers record for Night Ranger.
Jazz Odyssey. There it is. I said it out
We're
loud.
gonna need a
If
lot
I've
of
said it,
mail.
if I've said it once, I've said it 100 times. Puppet show, then Night Ranger. All right. So, um, we'll talk about the kids, Kris, after the show. Just their experience and what they thought of it. Where the next 2 weeks of school were they walking around in turquoise blazers like Jack was in '85?
Well, we got a lot. I mean, this was the shirt that everybody was wearing on stage, and so we saw shirts being worn for the rest of the season. And Ed came with lots of swag for the kids, hanging out hats and stickers and stuff, and those were regular Saturday morning attire throughout the rest of the season, which was great. And then in the springtime, Ed came with the video mostly edited and mixed and showed it to the students so they could see get a little sneak peek and see what it was going to look like. And they were tickled pink. I mean, they were enjoying seeing themselves on the camera. And, when each person came up, everybody's like, oh, you look awesome. And they made fun of me relentlessly for my hair flips throughout the performance. And, so it was great, and we all had a wonderful time. And it is one of those things where, you talked about all the Night Ranger fans getting together beforehand at Winking Lizard and having that camaraderie, and that's memory making, right? And so what these kids did is they made some amazing memories together. And we want to expose them to different areas of the music industry, and we want to make great music with them. But another thing that we feel is really important is to help them make memories that they'll treasure for the rest of their lives. And I don't think there will be a single one of them that doesn't talk about Night Ranger as they continue through their lives and what that concert was like. Because honestly, high school kids don't normally get those kinds of opportunities. So that is a pretty unique opportunity. And it was a cool night of music making that's now, on a record and on a DVD. And I just, I'm going to embarrass the crap out of my great grandchildren someday. Be like, one time I played with Night Ranger. Here's the DVD. Sit down. We're watching it now. I think the students in the orchestra will probably do the same thing. So that's awesome.
And the kids each got their name in the liner notes. How cool was that?
Super cool.
And I guess right there was the actual date, November 9th. So a cool souvenir basically we got. I mean, everybody was excited for the show before we even knew this was happening. So to get this.
So many people came from different states. We had Mark come from England, but like just multiple states, Florida, Pennsylvania, like middle of the country. I mean, where is Lisa? Is she farther in Pennsylvania?
She's, somewhere
like so like east, west, south, they're just all coming up to Cleveland. So that's what was extra exciting, because we would come for the Danny or Peppy
show. So all right, Eric, you got any parting words for the about the orchestra show?
Just how heartwarming it is to to hear that the kids are continuing to wear the swag, and that it's something that as everybody's gonna always take with them. That would be my greatest wish for everybody in the orchestra. For any of you who are watching, thanks for watching this far into the video. I'm supposed to say that, right? That's what YouTubers say. Like, thanks for watching this far into the video. If you're still here,
so we have the most dedicated listeners, so they are still here.
But really, my heart felt like truly everybody who's in the orchestra. It's between your classes and having to get up early for everything else, and still finding time to do what you did. That we were all able to do together. Thank you truly, and from the bottom of my heart.
Kris, what's give us your parting thoughts on this whole experience?
Well, it's been amazing. It's been an amazing ride, and I am forever grateful to Night Ranger to give me the opportunity and to entrust me with such a important performance. I mean, I definitely took the project seriously and wanted to do a great job, and I'm glad that the band enjoyed the experience and enjoyed the work that I did. And it's a thrill to see so many people excited about what we did together, and to hear the diehard fans just appreciating the work that we all put in to put together a fun night, and to do these arrangements and to do something new. And I just want to thank everybody in Night Ranger. Eric, working with you was amazing, and
Oh man, likewise.
and everybody in the band was great. I mean, there's some really fun photos and videos from the concert, and I mean, even a year ago on Thanksgiving, Jack sent me a happy Thanksgiving message, and I was like, holy shit, Jack's sending me a Thanksgiving message. That's pretty awesome. So I'm just very grateful, and I'm grateful that we got to do this, but I think most importantly, I'm grateful that we were able to put together an event that the kids really enjoyed, and that they all left with some wonderful memories. And I just hope we get to do it again. You know, let's get that crowdfunding thing, or get those that quota of dirty secrets, so that we can make it happen. But
Bring your trombone next time too. We gotta
ready. Have trombone and ready.
Yeah, we gotta get some jamming in next time for real.
We'll have the Night Ranger covers Keith Jarrett record.
That's a duet record right here.
So thanks to Robyn for jumping in at short notice for us. Brent is a little under the weather tonight, and it was my idea was to have you guys on but separate, and Brent had the brilliant idea of, well, why don't we get them together? And it's like, that is an awesome idea that I will steal from you. But Brent had that idea of getting you guys together, and like I say, he couldn't make it nice, not feeling the greatest, and we were talking about rescheduling, but just with the holidays and everything, we both kind of agreed that there's probably no other good dates going to be coming up. So but Robyn, thank you for jumping on and covering his spot. Eric, thank you for everything you do in the Night Ranger community and the Fans in Motion community. My liver is dreading Vegas, but
that's right. I heard you're coming to Vegas.
It's
and Piercy, man, right?
It's yeah, but it's
right. See our friend Steve.
Dude, last time I was in Vegas, I was there for 4 days. I remember one.
So back at you with the gratitude too.
Chris watched these two.
I know.
Thank you, Eric. Thank you, Kris. Thank you for joining us. I'm sure we'll see you again when this next Night Ranger Symphony record comes out. But seriously though, thank you for joining us. Thank you for the work you did with the record and the orchestra, and helping put together a great release. 40 years into Night Ranger's career, and we've got something that we can all hold up and be proud of. And you can't say that about every band from that era and every release that's put out there. But we can, as Night Ranger fans, we can hold this up and say, we can take this to our friends who maybe don't like 80s music, so to speak, and put it in and say, this shit still is good and this shit still kicks ass. And you were a part of that, and you're part of the Night Ranger history, and you did justice to call my name. So if you You
I love
need-
that so much. That brings me so much joy. You have no idea.
So if you need a kidney, you've earned it. I would suggest getting it before the second weekend in February because it's gonna
I
log
know
on.
I won't be calling you for a liver. Let's put it that way.
But anyways, Kris, Lisa, Eric, thank you guys for
Wow.
joining.
Robyn.
Robyn. Who did I say?
Oh,
Who did I
Lisa.
say? Lisa? You listen. I should. That's why I
You
need.
listen.
I need to just get
I'm
back.
not rocking Robyn for nothing. Okay.
I need to get back to just calling you guys all baby, right? I try to be equal and like start
He
calling.
says baby, but it was broad.
Oh no.
Listen, if you call them all, listen, contemporary youth. If you call all of them baby, you can't mix up their names. That's what I'm leaving you with. Okay.
No.
Always call them baby. Never try to call them by their name because you'll do this and then you're the bad guy when you actually try to make an effort. Anyways, thank you guys for joining. Later.